Hi, I'm Flairbear. This is my submission for AGDQ 2019. This is a hat in time category, all timepieces in particular. And a couple things to note just before we start off is this game is run generally on the in-game timer, which is shown at the top of my screen. So for that reason, I've added a little real-time timer down at the bottom right on my splits so that we can see my real-time, what it would be in a marathon, and that's what I use for making my estimate and stuff like that. So for marathon timing, we start the timer whenever I create this new file. So 3, 2, 1, go. So in the normal any percent run, or just completing the game, you need 25 timepieces, whereas all timepieces, the total amount of timepieces in the game is 40. So it's a little bit less than twice as much. But even though there's so many levels in any percent that are also in here, the movement for most of them is completely different because you need a lot of extra collectibles like relics and yarn and extra stuff like that. So most of the movement throughout the levels that we already do is actually a bit different. So I'll go ahead and explain the extra ATP things while also, or all timepieces things, while also explaining the basic mechanics for someone that hasn't even seen any percent either. Starting off right there, we grab 2 yarn, which is one of the collectibles that I was talking about, which allows you to make hats. I grabbed 2 yarn, which allowed me to make the sprint hat, which allows me to run fast like this. You can sprint. And sprinting also unlocks 3 different movement exploits that I'm going to use around the run. I'll explain them the first time that they actually show up, so you can know how they work. I made sure to also grab 5 pawns around that fountain at the end there, because the next level that I want to enter costs 5 pawns. We want to go into Act 3 first instead of Act 2, and for the reason for that is there's a lot of fast yarn in it that we use to get the next hat, which is a brewer hat, and also a relic, which a relic is another one of the collectibles that I was talking about that we grab a lot throughout this run. You can use them to create new types of levels called time rifts. Obviously for all timepieces, we need all the levels, so we need every single one. The relic back here over to the left, which is this is the first one. That was the little bottom half of a burger, is its little relic figure. All of the relics make up little different toy pieces and stuff like that. So right here, I need to open this vault. I'm going to take damage from that crow, and then grab the ticket while invincibility frames. And that's called ticket duping, because what it does is it actually gives you 2 of that item, instead of just 1. So you can open a 3-ticket vault while only grabbing 2, thanks to that bird. And we do that 2 other times, both in Mafia Town. It's exclusive to Mafia Town. Now before I grab this last yarn here, I'm going to pause and turn off a setting that skips cutscenes, like this animation right here for grabbing yarn. And then if I pause and unpause right after I grab it, it forces a pause screen up, showing me that I have enough to make the brewer hat like I just did. But the thing about it is, what happened there is that I caused menu storage, which allowed me to move around while the menu is still there. So now if I make my way to the end of the level with this menu still up on my screen, I can actually exit to hub and not have to watch the timepiece cutscene. And then you just go to exit to hub, and exit out right after. So next we're going into Act 2, the one that we skipped. There's a bunch of stuff in here that we need the brewer hat for, so that's important why we do it afterwards. So starting off, there's a bunch of objects in this game that can be blown up by using the brewer hat's projectiles. They're usually marked in yellow lining like these boxes right here. And this one gives me a yarn, which I need. This one opens up a hole that lets me go into this cave that has a relic in it. This is another relic. That's the first one of the train set. Another little toy figure that we can make to make a level. Those are the train tracks, and this one right here is the actual train. Now we have those relics, we just dive boost down into the fight, and the rest is as normal. we use the projectiles to do a little bit of extra damage to these guys to make the fight faster. Like here. Jump on his head. That one just went straight to the floor. Oh well. But yeah, and then you can just slap him an extra time if you miss, and then the fight's over. For the first part of it. The next part, there's this one last guy that wants to sit up there and throw barrels at you for like 40 seconds before actually coming down and fighting you. And this spot I'm standing in right here, if you stay there, the barrels won't hit you for the entire time. You can kind of just stand here and do nothing, which would make a bit of a boring part of a run. So that's why at the SGDQ 2018 run, I'm pretty sure we just had them read 1 or 2 donations during this segment. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty boring. Gotta chill here and wait. And blow kisses, I guess. And then after this last barrel over here finishes bouncing around, he's actually going to come down and fight us. We're going to use a projectile to snipe him, knock him down to the bottom a little bit sooner so we can start the fight early, get to beating him up as fast as possible. And then it's already over and we can just jump to the timepiece. Then after this timepiece animation finishes playing, there's a little cutscene, but we can pause as soon as it pulls up and just exit the hub out of it. I accidentally entered my gameplay settings menu there for a moment, which I didn't mean to do. Just have to hit the exit to hub like button and then just click yes. You'll see it again after this level. There's another one here. But this is also the first real boss of the game. That last one was pretty much a mini-boss. It doesn't really have boss mechanics. For the mechanics of this one, however, pretty much every boss in the game is broken. And they usually have quick kills, or ways of ending the fight and killing them earlier than intended. This boss has 3 phases, and the third one can be skipped entirely by doing a quick kill at the beginning of it that knocks him out of bounds. That'll be explained when we get there. It's pretty simple. For now, we have to actually make our way over there. We have to get a key to unlock that room. A little shortcut you can do to get up to this bucket up here. You can use this to open up the gate. Now it holds open the gate for us. We can get the key. And then we just progress. Make sure to grab some extra pawns here, because I don't have that many, actually. And you need a lot for this run, like a lot. So I try to grab as many as I can in random places. And we're in the throne room. This is where the entrance to the boss is located. But real quick, I'm going to get this yarn right here in this box. And we're going to do fight skip right here, which is climbing up on top of this arch to skip over by jumping on top of a cutscene trigger and a trigger to start a mini-boss fight. There's a lot of skips in this game that happen simply because triggers for certain things don't go high up enough and you can just jump right over them. And that one's no exception. A bunch of them had the triggers actually raised to go higher, so that you can't actually jump over them anymore in fixing them. And that's why we put on version 1.0. It was left as kind of a speedrunning patch, so stuff like that is still available to us. In this first phase of the fight, he has 4 hits before he goes to the next one. Should be doing his last attack here. Supercharge! You can bounce on his head to make it go a little faster. Now he's in the second phase, which this one's a little bit shorter, and he only has 2 health in this one. Does this one front flip attack, and then also sometimes jumps downwards and does a sandbag attack. Generally want him to avoid doing this as it loses a little bit of extra time, but it's not a big deal. And hopefully he goes back up, yeah, like that. Then you want him to jump over to the left to set up for the quick kill here. So now he's in the left corner. Then you go to the right corner and hug the wall while charging a brewing potion. Then when he jumps over, he tries to swipe you away because you're too close to him in his path. But he ends up knocking you directly into him, messing up his positioning, and when he tries to jump into his Mafia Ball, it ends up just making him jump forwards, falling through the floor, and hitting a kill plane and dying. That skips the entire third phase of the fight, which saves like 55 seconds or something crazy like that. It's the longest phase of the fight, so it's good that that exists. Next up, I'm going to be explaining the first movement exploit of the sprint hat, since this is the first major use of it, called a sprint double jump, or an SDJ, is what I'll be calling it. Basically, whenever you're sprinting, you get one big fast jump, where you get one front flip jump in the air, but no double jump. Whereas while you're just walking normally, you're a lot slower, but you get 2 jumps. Well, if you sprint, and then let go of sprint and jump 1 to 2 frames. If you jump 1 to 2 frames after sprinting, letting go of sprint, then you maintain that speed while getting both of your jumps back, which allows you to go really far in the air like this. And then I take fall damage right here with that distance, and then I can grab that ticket before running out of iframes barely. And it allows me to do a difficult dupe there. And then I can come and grab this second yarn, this other yarn, and then I can dupe the second ticket, again by just taking damage from that torch, which that one's a little bit more simple. But I got 4 yarn, or 4 tickets by only grabbing 2. Thanks to the double dupe is what we call it. Something to note here, I am a little bit low on pawns, and a level we need to do soon called Heating Up Mafia Town actually costs 100 pawns to open. I do need to grab a little bit more coming up here, but fortunately there are a few on the way, because we're going to be entering into a time rift first. Time rifts are Mario Sunshine-esque sort of secret levels, where there's these really short platforming levels located in random secret locations. This first one is called Sewers, because it's located in this little sewer pipe, which is directly behind us, back here. I can just slide on this house and go straight to it. And there's the little entry, or these time rift orbs is what takes you in. And now we're entering into the short little level itself. It's just a quick platforming sequence where you have to focus well on your movement. There are a lot of moving platforms, so there are some difficult cycles that you can strive to make with good movement. Like right here, I didn't mess up at the beginning, so I can easily jump onto that cycle, or that moving block while it's still on its first cycle. Which saves a couple seconds if you can do it. Which is helpful to go for, since movement is pretty much the only element to these time rifts, so optimizing it can be useful. And then afterwards, there's a little time rift roulette cutscene that plays, where it gives you cosmetic items and awards you with like hats and stuff like that. And something to note about them is that I do exit to hub during them, because they are cutscenes, but you have to wait until you actually collect their item before you can exit to hub. Because if you exit to hub before grabbing the item, then it'll put you in this state where your entire game screen is pitch black and you can't see anything, essentially soft locking you. But I make sure to grab the item first. This is Heating Up Mafia Town, and this introduces 2 new mechanics I'll be using a couple times throughout the run that are pretty cool. 2 methods of warping. One called death warping and one called stuck warping. And this first one right here I'm setting up is for a death warp. You can tell by taking damage over and over. I landed in the lava, took fall damage here, and knocked myself to 1 health. And that way, when I get to this faucet back here, I can smack it, activate it, and then fall off and die. Which teleports me back to the start of the level. And that's a lot faster than backtracking. We actually do 2 death warps in this level just to save some time. And then the last faucet is stuck warping, which is a bit more complicated, so I'll have to explain that one coming up shortly. Take damage from this torch right here, once again, because we need to get to 1 health. And then the other place where we can take damage is near the second to last faucet back here, marked by that fire symbol. I'm going to bounce through the lava to skip over to that last faucet a little bit early. That allows me to take the extra damage I need to make it to the end, while also getting myself to 1 health. And I can just die right after. So now here's a stuck warp. Stuck warping abuses a softlock prevention mechanic, where whenever you get stuck it warps you to your last known safe position. And, well, dang. I can still show what it looks like, but I landed in an incorrect safe position. So basically now, because I touched the floor, when I get stuck it's gonna warp me over to the right, which I didn't actually want to do. I meant to land on top of the chest because the chest isn't a safe position. So if you don't do that, then you can warp all the way back to the top. And that's also shown off in my any% run. But if you miss it, there is a short backup we can just ride these umbrellas back to the top. But doing the stuck warp up to the top looks cooler, obviously, and saves a bit more time. Now we have one level left to do in Mafia Town before we go on to Chapter 3. And it's going to be one more time rift. This one is called Bazaar because it's located in a little bazaar, which fortunately is located directly below the spawn for Barrel Battle. We can just enter through there and immediately make it to there. Wall climb up. The time rift is right there. You can hear the music is kind of different. That's because in the time rift roulette cutscene I got a music remix that changes the songs that play in certain parts of the game. And the first one I grabbed was a Mafia Town remix, which changes the theme of Mafia Town. This time rift doesn't have really any important cycle I need to focus on, but because movement is really the only element to focus on in time rifts, obviously having optimal movement is the main thing to strive for. Dang, well clearly I'm not doing a great job at it, but we're still fine. You just jump straight to the timepiece at the end here. Please! There we go. And now we're headed to Chapter 3. Subcon Forest. We do that before going to Chapter 2. Ooh, I like this color. That's one of the cosmetics you can get, and it's probably my favorite. Changes the colors of Hat Kid's clothes to red, white, and blue, which is awesome. But yeah, we're going to Chapter 3 before Chapter 2 because there's a lot of items that we need from this chapter before we can do Chapter 2 optimally. The hookshot's located here, which is required for Chapter 2, and there's also a bunch of... there's one more hat that we need that we haven't got yet, and also some more relics. So starting off here, at the very beginning of Subcon, there's 3 firewalls that are big barriers that prevent us from going anywhere except for straight forward, which leads us right into a bag that we get trapped in for 30 seconds. It's a long cutscene that we want to avoid, so once again, just like Fight Skip, we jump right over the trigger by doing an SDJ from these trees up here. I didn't get full momentum, so I want to make sure to try it again. What the heck is Hat Kid doing? Okay. Yeah, these trees have some weird interactions. I gotta go back and retry that real quick. Like I said, you really need to get full speed or else you're not going to be able to make it and lose a lot more time. So I just wanted to retry it once. There we go. And then you can just land on that branch and jump right over the trigger like that. And that skips that whole cutscene. And even though I messed it up one time, because the cutscene is so long, it still saves time to do it that way, even if you don't get it first try. Though that run, that trick can be a big run killer if you're going for good attempts. So now we're into the little painting segment. You gotta carry these paintings into a fire, and when you burn them all, that gets rid of the firewalls. You can only walk when you have them equipped. You can do this little slide here to make it a lot faster. You can see I went flying. It's a cool little optimization that you can go for if you'd like. And then we're going to take a bit more damage from the fire. Similarly to heating up Mafia Town, I'm going to be taking some damage on purpose so that I can set up for a death warp at the end. This time for a little bit of a different reason than before. Basically, some of the levels in Subcon are actually enterable through any act, such as they have their loading zone in a specific location in Subcon, and you can just enter them whenever you want. And the next level I'm going to do is that way. So if I respawn at the start of Contractual Obligations, level I'm in right now, I can enter into Act 2 anyway. So obviously going back to the spaceship and doing the level select screen again is a waste of time. So what I do instead is just set up a cherry death warp, where I put a bomb, this cherry, right next to the timepiece, then grab it and die, and that collects the timepiece while respawning me back at the start of the level. Then I can immediately progress to the next part, the subcon well. Next, though, I'm going to be taking down these blue paintings to get rid of the other, one of the other 3 firewalls, the blue firewall, which, whenever you burn the paintings, a little cutscene plays that shows the firewall being destroyed. I'm going to skip that momentarily by zooming in my camera and dive boosting away as fast as possible. And now the cutscene has been prevented from playing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little momentum slide to boost up on top of this well. And then as I fall into it, I'm going to trigger the cutscene by zooming out my camera and looking into it. And it's kind of hard to tell because my screen goes black, but the firewall goes down just as I enter the level. And that skips having to sit still and watch it for 3 seconds. And now we're into the well itself, and this is the level that contains the hookshot, which we're going to get right here. And we get to show off its mechanics pretty well right away. It's pretty fast and helps us get through a lot of places really quickly. Anywhere where there's something you can grapple onto, it's generally fast too. That chest I just grabbed also. I kind of opened a chest inside of a little ice rock. That chest is actually invisible, and it's like a secret. And what it does is it gives you a cow with sunglasses, which is one of the relics. But I already have that relic, so what it does instead is it gives me 100 pawns, which is incredibly useful for this run, because of how many pawns you need. In fact, if you didn't get that 100 pawn boost, you probably would never have enough pawns to get all the levels when you need to. Because all the relics cost pawns to create, and all the, well, not all, but some of the levels cost pawns to create. Such as heating up Mafia Town or the Big Parade, which is something that we'll be doing later in Battle of the Birds in Chapter 2. So now, we signed a contract in the first level. Like I said, some of the levels you don't have to actually unlock their acts to enter, like well. However, some of them you actually do need to. There's only 2 of them. So we will be signing 2 of the contracts. One for mail delivery service, and one for the Toilet of Doom boss, which is another boss that's extremely broken. Another interesting factor about this level is that mail delivery service, most people actually switch to mouse and keyboard when they play this level, because it requires aiming and launching mail packages at 10 of Snatcher's minions, which the aiming on is a lot more difficult than just doing it on a mouse. It's a lot easier to aim on a mouse than a joystick, at least for most people it is. Go up here and get on your scooter. Now you can launch mail packages at people. On the way we're going to get one more contract though, like I did mention. Right here. And now we're going to sign the contract for Toilet of Doom. Now I go on top of this tree stump up here. There's one more relic that I need to get right here. I can just get that guy right next to me. Then I stand in a specific spot on the ground right here and aim a shot at a specific trajectory. Make sure to line it up just right, because there's a guy way back behind the guy that I aimed at, that if you shoot it at that specific trajectory, it'll actually hit both of them. It'll arch past the first guy and then hit the second one. And also, when you complete contracts, just like it did in the second level with menu storage, it shows that you've completed that contract by forcing a pause screen up. So I did the same thing where I paused and unpaused right beforehand, and that allowed me to move around while the pause screen was there, which let me jump into the timepiece and then exit to hub, skipping the cutscene. So now I'm entering into Toilet of Doom. We're not actually doing the boss itself right away. We're just taking this spawn point and using it to enter into somewhere else faster. Similarly to Subcon Well, you can enter Vanessa's Manor, which is where we're going now, from any act. We're just gonna go to this bridge. Go straight there. Since the Toilet of Doom spawn is really close to where we need to go. So now we're entering into this little icy cavern. The kind of entrance area to get into the manor itself. There's a lot of little puzzles and platforming that you normally need to do, that you can skip past with well-timed jumps over the ice walls. You can do that for each of them. There's 3. That one you can jump on the Dweller's head right there. This one you can just skip past everything and then land straight at the edge and slide over. That makes that entrance pretty fast. And now you can just dive through straight to the manor, which normally is a very long, like 4-minute long level itself. But fortunately there is a developer intended skip that was added in at the full game release that allows you to skip through the entire thing pretty much. It literally just teleports you to the final room. So this level is a lot of sneaking around, hiding from Queen Vanessa, getting keys to open doors and stuff like that. But fortunately all of that tedious nonsense is skipped just by crawling through that hole in the cellar. It takes you straight to the end. And you can get on that door to jump over a cutscene. That lets you get up onto the chandelier, where you can grab another relic, and then just finish the level. That's made really short and sweet by that developer skip. So next we're going into Toilet of Doom spawn again, this time actually going to be fighting the boss itself, which this quick kill is probably the most broken of any of them in the game. You can kill the boss off of the very first attack that he does and end it instantly. There's one mechanic that makes it possible. Every time the toilet does an attack, he goes underground and respawns somewhere else, as to make his position more unpredictable. But while he's underground, you can pause the game and change a graphic setting, which lags out your game for a little bit. And during that lag time, it actually causes the toilet to keep going down instead of reappearing somewhere else. And that causes him to fall into a kill point and die. So whenever he goes underground, I'm going to pause here. Like that. Open my graphics menu. Change my environment detail and unpause. And that causes him to never reappear, which ends the fight immediately. And because it did the contract thing again, I can just stand in the timepiece and exit to hub right away. And now we have one major act left for Subcon, and that is the final boss, another boss in Snatcher. And this one is also very broken. It revolves around one simple mechanic. Basically, this boss, for like the first minute or so of it, he just stands in the center of the arena, supposedly invincible, while you just have to run away and dodge his attacks and not die, where you can eventually turn him blue when you can finally hit him. But his hurt box barely sticks out of the arena, and with a well-timed angle you can hit him before you're supposed to be able to. And if you just get that one angle and swing over and over, you can just hit him as many times as you want. And now his health is already at 0. So now that not only got his health to 0 way early on, but it also skipped past a bunch of the sequences of the fight. So now he's already at the portion of the fight where he gives me the potion that I can use to light him blue. And then once I do that, when I hit him a single time, he dies. Because his health is already at 0. And that boss quick kill is so good that the cutscene that follows afterwards is even longer than the fight itself, where you sign this contract. Basically, Snatcher's begging for your mercy because you destroyed him, and instead you tell him you want to stay and be his friend. Be my BFF. And then he gets confused, so he just gives you the timepiece. That's it for all the main acts of Subcon. Now we just have 3 timepieces left, all of them being time rifts. So whenever we completed Vanessa's Manor, we actually unlocked the spawn point for it. Even though we never signed the contract for a manor, which normally lets us get to its act select screen, whenever we complete it, it makes it available anyway. We can use that spawn point, which is right here on the bridge, to immediately get to the pipe, in the pipe time rift. So this time rift also has a bit of important cycle that I have to worry about making. Because if I mess up too much movement here, then I'll have to wait for some of these gears to rise again until I can actually reach the next part. But if I make this first cycle, then I can make it fine. Unfortunately, I didn't, because I bonked into the gear. So now I have to wait for it to rise up. Yeah, that level, the cycle's kinda lenient, but because I bonked and got sent so far back, I just had to wait for the next one anyway. But it's okay, the cycles on that level aren't too punishing, so it's not that bad. We got another roulette. I do not like that color as much as the one I'm currently wearing, so I'm going to decline that. The red, white, and blue color is just too good. Now we're entering into Village, the Village Time Rift, which the location for this Time Rift is on top of a tower, which I use another one of the movement exploits to get to. So I'm going to explain that as we get to it. So there's 2 more movement exploits of the 3 that I haven't explained yet, and they both work the same way, just slightly differently. There's a DSJ, or a double sprint jump, which is walking off of the edge of a platform, and if you do it right as you walk off the edge, it momentarily allows you to do a second sprint jump, which you'll see here, like this, where I kind of did the front flip twice. Now, if I do that same thing, but instead of do a second sprint jump, I just do 2 normal jumps, then I can do 3 jumps, like that, and just gain a ton of height and make it all the way to the top right away. Those are the other main 2 movement exploits to run. They can be kind of confusing to keep track of, just because their names are all so similar, like DSJ and SDJ. Just the same letters slightly rearranged. That's why I try to call them, like, SDJ and then double sprint jump instead. This level doesn't really have any punishing cycles in it. As long as you don't fall, you're fine. It can be difficult on this last jump. You go for the skip on this last thing here. Gotta get an SDJ off of the bell right there, and that gives you enough momentum to skip straight to the end. Skip all those platforms that have to take you around. Go straight to the timepiece. Then I got a remix for the Subcon theme, which is neat. We do have 1 more Subcon level left to do. We haven't unlocked it yet. We actually have to go craft the relic that creates it. Right here. It's the cow and UFO relic. This little toy figure where the cows are getting sucked up by the UFO. That respawns a new level available in Subcon. So we're going to go to that now. And like you saw, we got rid of 2 firewall barriers by destroying the red paintings and the blue paintings. We have not destroyed the green paintings, which is the 3rd firewall, which is where this time rift is. But fortunately, there is a skip you can do to jump around it and skip past the barrier. So I'm going to make my way over to the edge of the forest, because there's a little hole in the wall near the very edge of the forest that I can jump around if I get my jump timings right. Basically, there's this little mushroom over here that I can bounce off of to get a lot of height. And then this firewall right next to me doesn't extend all the way around. You can kind of see that little gap there in between the wall and the very edge of the map. So if I can make it through that little gap, I can just skip it entirely. Then just get this relic, make our way over to the rift itself. That's the last relic for Subcon, and now we just have to do this final level. So purple time rifts work completely differently from all the other time rifts we've done, or the blue time rifts, where it's just one short level where you have to run to the end, whereas this one has a bunch of different screens with pipes that take you to the next one at the end of them. And to unlock those pipes, you have to collect a certain amount of these rift pawns. It shows a number at the top of each pipe showing you how many you have to collect. Make sure not to run out of health, because got smacked by that wrecking ball. Yeah, I grab all the rift pawns there, then I get some from these guys. Come on. And this one over here. This rift pawn right here, it's inside the bucket, but instead of jumping in it, because the umbrella hitbox, I'm gonna grab this health, by the way, just to be safe. I don't want to die. But the umbrella hitbox reaches inside of the bucket and just collects it for you early. So now we're done, and we just have to destroy this little time rift ball, and we're done. So if you noticed, I grabbed one little comic piece that was separate from the actual rift pawns. Whenever you do that, it plays this cutscene where it shows all the comic pieces you collected. And unlike the roulette cutscene, where if you try to exit to hub, it'll give you a black screen glitch. If you exit to hub out of that cutscene, it won't do it. If you collect even one comic piece in a purple time rift, you can exit to hub immediately after you're done, which saves some time. So I grab one comic piece in each of the purple time rifts. And now we just need to make the crayon box, which unlocks a time rift in Alpine, which is chapter 4. And this is a chapter that is not seen at all in any percent due to its length, but the mechanics of it are extremely interesting and unique to itself, because there's a lot of level elements that are only seen here. So this chapter is really exciting for the run. There's a lot to explain, but it's really fun. Both casually and in the speedrun, it's probably my favorite chapter. So this is a little intro segment to Alpine. Alpine is located way up in the sky, and so we're not quite there yet. We have this little intro island that we have to progress through, where we can ride a zipline up to the top. But this island has a lot of skips and sequence breaks in it too. This door that you normally have to ring a bell to open, you can jump right over with a well-timed STJ. And then you can climb these bushes, on these statues, and little things on the wall. There's a lot of things that you can use to get up this staircase a lot faster. So this sequence is actually made really short. And now we're already at the top. Have to hit these little faucet things, kind of similar to the ones in Heating Up, where you smack them with your umbrella and they swing down. And now we just have to ride the zip line up to the top and make the Dweller hat, or Dweller mask, which is something that we'll be using in a couple levels here shortly. So this cutscene shows us ziplining all the way up to the top of Alpine in the sky, way up there. And that cutscene is so long. It's just better to exit to hub whenever you get into the actual part of Alpine that you need to go to, and then just exit to hub. Because once you pass through the clouds, it checkpoints you at the top. So now I've respawned all the way up here at the start of Alpine. And this is where a lot of interesting mechanics come into play, so I may as well explain them now, because there's a lot to talk about. But first of all, the time pieces in this level are all located inside the main big hub world that I'm in right now. There's a bunch of big islands in each different direction that have a lot of different gimmicks to them. And you can only access those islands by riding zip lines to them. Some of them take one zip line that you have to unlock, some of them take 2 or 3. But that first horn that I just blew unlocked all of the basic zip lines that take you to the very start of each level. A little entrance segment of Lava Cake, where I have to work my way up to the top of this mountain, where I can then zip line up to Lava Cake. This chapter commonly uses the third type of warping that I haven't talked about, called void warping, where you abuse checkpoint manipulation by checkpointing yourself in certain spots and then falling off to warp back there. Oh no. I tried to do a little trick there. Right again. Where you land on top of that statue head and then you can just wall jump off of him. But I pushed A too early, so I just jumped off. There we go. Yeah, you can land on top of him if you get the right spacing for it. That's okay. And now we're making our way to Lava Cake itself. Whenever you arrive at any of the main islands, it plays this little 10-second cutscene introducing you to them when you reach the end of the zip line at that red tree over there. Before I get there, I'm going to pause my game and unequip my hookshot so that it detaches me from it. And that skips the cutscene from playing. But like I mentioned about void warping, it also prevents my checkpoint from being set here. The deaths at any of the Alpine levels can be costly. But these are the lava bounces that make this level really fast. You can bounce upwards over and over by abusing iframes. Because you hit the lava multiple times while still invincible, you can keep bouncing up and going higher and higher without taking that much damage. And then I can just jump straight to the end up here. And go right to the timepiece. And that is Lava Cake. Next up is Birdhouse. And like I said about how all of the timepieces are located in this one big hub world, because of that, a cool mechanic is that each time you complete a level, it just respawns you back at the start, so you can immediately progress to the next one, instead of having to re-go into the spaceship every time. This is the intro segment of Birdhouse. This one you actually have to blow 2 horns to unlock. The first horn at the very start of the chapter, and also on this island back here. Where I want to go is actually way over to the left, but I don't have the zipline that takes me there yet. So I need to blow this horn at the top of this island. But because riding all the way back to re-enter that zipline would be a lot of backtracking, I detach right before I get to the end, as to prevent checkpointing here. So once again, the risk would be falling down would make me have to re-go all the way back here. But once I make it to the horn, the reason it's so useful is that I can just fall down and come all the way back here where I want to be. That is void warping. And they're very high risk, high reward, because if you don't go for them, the casual method of doing it is a lot slower, like probably 40 seconds slower for most of them. Because it's a lot of backtracking. This chapter's really huge. But if you actually go for them and fall down, then you have to redo everything, which can lose you like a minute. So I'm setting up for a triple jump here like I did earlier, and this skips a bit of platforming. There we go. And now I can grab onto that platform right there and go straight to the top, which skips most of the Birdhouse's intro platforming. It takes me straight to the actual island, way up here. And now we're headed to the birdhouse itself in this big cage. And so once I get there once again, I'm going to detach from my hookshot so that I don't have to watch the 10-second cutscene. And now this level has a massive sequence break in it, like a lot of the levels in this chapter. Normally, to make it to the bird sleeping, where the timepiece is, you have to do a bunch of stuff over in these houses back behind me. But if you just do an SDJ at just the right spot off of that fence, you can get enough momentum to make it straight to the end. You can bounce on the bird's head and skip all of that over there. And that trick probably saves like a minute, or maybe more. The massive sequence break. Next we're going to Windmill. which also has a gigantic, really cool skip in it. But once again, where we want to go is over to the left. But we don't have that zipline unlocked yet, so we're going to unequip our hookshot so we don't set a checkpoint. That way we don't have to backtrack when we actually get the zipline we need. Gotta make our way to the top again and blow the horn. Land on top of the statue head, which gives you enough height to skip straight to the top. Skip a lot of the platforming of that little island. And now I'm back at the beginning where I can immediately go back where I came from. And enter into where I want to go, which is over to the left. But this one actually requires 3 horns, like I said as well. Because there is one other island over to the left on that yellow hookshot, or on that yellow zipline. There's another horn I have to blow over there to get one last hookshot that'll take me to the windmill itself. A little triple jump here. I'll give it another try. Oh, what did I land on? I don't want to lose too much. What am I landing on? I just took 3 damage from that. Never mind, I'm not going for it. That was so silly. I landed on 2 invisible platforms and took a ton of fall damage. That was really silly. But yeah. It's okay. The normal method of doing it is not that much slower. So I just went the normal way. Because I'm at 1 health now, so I just have to not die. And I actually need to grab some health pawns. Because I have to do another void warp at the end here, but fortunately there's 2 right here. That movement there is actually kind of scary, but you can't really tell. This island right below me that I just passed has a bunch of invisible cats on it that chase you down and hit you and steal your hat from you. And if you actually get your hat stolen, then you have to fight them back for like 10 seconds. Or you can continue on. Because if you don't have your hat on, not only can you not sprint or do anything, you can't even hookshot. So if you lose your hat, you really need it back. So that part's kind of scary. But I didn't get grabbed, so I was fine. And once again, I'm at the main portion of Windmill now. So I skipped a 10-second cutscene again there, just by unequipping my hookshot really quickly. And so now we're into the huge tower that makes up the windmill level. And this level is one of the longest in the whole game. There's dozens of floors of platforming. And I'm already skipping past a lot of them with these sequence breaks. But once we get past that one up here, we can get rid of the entire rest of the level by riding on the windmill in front of it. Whoops. Let me wait for the next one. I don't want to fall off. It's the main thing. Here we go. As long as you can wall climb onto it, you can ride your way up to the top. And then land back down at the very top of the level. Which is like actually a multiple minute time saver. Probably the largest skip in the entire game. And next we're going into Twilight Bell. The Twilight Bell, you don't really have to blow any horns to get into, but there is another short little intro section with some cool warps in it. Come on! At least I got a few extra pawns there. But this little dark tile in the rock has a checkpoint barrier on it. Or kind of a void out barrier where it sets you higher up. So I just bonk into that thing, and it puts me higher up. This dweller platform right here, even though I haven't made it solid, some of the edges of the platform you can actually stand on anyway. And that platform's completely unique in that mechanic. And that's why I like to show it off. That you can jump on it without making it solid. And it doesn't save that much time, but it's pretty cool to show off. Once again, arriving at another main island. So I'm going to be detaching from the zipline. So I can skip a 10-second cutscene. Time adds up over all of them. And then it loads me into a completely different level Twilight Bell. Kind of in like this dark zone. Level's really cool. I'm going to abuse a little mechanic here with water. Water isn't shown off a lot, but each time you collide with water, it actually refreshes your jump for whatever reason. So I jumped on that waterfall, wall jumped off, and then had another double jump available to me. So I could just continuously climb up that platform until I made it to the top. And then here I dive straight into another void warp barrier, where it checkpoints me further forward than I actually was. And then as if we haven't skipped enough of the level already, we can wall climb to the very, very top, and then ledge grab on the side, hopefully, not fall down, and then we're at the very end. There we go. Oh, I didn't even have to grab the ledge, I just ran in straight on top of it. And then we just ride up to the top, the Dweller Mask that we made earlier, which lets us grab the timepiece. And now we're going to the level that we made by crafting the crayon box, the purple time rift for Alpine, which is conveniently located right next to the spawn point for it. So once again, general gist of this level, grabbing most but not all of the time rift pawns, that we just get the minimum amount that we need. There's one on top of this pillar right here that you can skip onto early by getting a lot of height off of that rope and bouncing up. Then you can just jump across to the next one. And then back here, behind this last rift pawn that I'm going to get, there is another comic piece I'm going to get right there. I'm going to use that so I can do the exit to hub again. As long as you grab one of them, then it makes it possible. So you only need to grab the fastest one. Okay. And now we're hookshotting over here, where we can do a little lava bounce to make it up higher. And we can just grab that pawn immediately and continue. It's a nice little time save there. And then here's the water mechanic thing I talked about earlier, where it refreshes your jumps. I can sprint jump, and then just sprint jump again, completely. Then I just jump straight over this next block. Oh no! Okay, it's okay. I just landed on an invisible piece of floor, you know. Always there to save you when you mess up this jump. That you can get it second try like that. There's a little, like, convenient piece of invisible floor right there. You can always land on it if you ever mess up that jump. And I love that it's there, because that jump is actually pretty difficult, so it's actually quite useful. And now we're done with that time rift. So once again, because I grabbed the comic piece, I'm gonna exit to hub right away. Normally wouldn't be able to do. And now we are entering into the sort of final boss of this chapter. This one, unlike the other bosses, there isn't really someone you're fighting. Rather, there's a disease that's spread around Alpine that you need to go and destroy. So 3 of the 4 islands that we've been to have these plants on them that are spreading this disease. So we're going to need to go to each of those islands, destroy the disease, and then come back to do the next one. Which means we want to skip every single checkpoint. We're going to take our hookshot off after every single island that we go to. That way our checkpoint's way back at the beginning, which saves all the time of backtracking. So for example, if I forgot to take off my hookshot here and checkpointed here, then I would have to go all the way from here, all the way back to the spawn of the level, just to go to the next one. So I take off my hookshot after every single checkpoint, which is very high risk, high reward. Just like the other void warps in this chapter, it saves a ton of time to do, but if you forget one, then you spawn all the way back at the beginning. Or if you fall down when you do them, you spawn all the way back at the beginning. So like, if I mess up some of the movement that I'm doing here, right now you can see I'm a minute and 20 seconds into the chapter. That's how much time I'm going to be losing if I make one mistake here. This level can actually be one of the scariest, if not the scariest, in the entire run. Not only is it hard to not choke on this level, but even past that, even if you don't choke it, it's even more difficult to do optimally and get like really good times on. Like you saw there, after I destroyed the flower, I was able to jump off and immediately respawn back at the beginning, which is probably like 40 seconds faster than just backtracking my way there. So once again, I'm just going to detach from my hookshot here. Make sure not to fall off, and we should be good. So each time you destroy one of the plants, the other ones become a little bit more powerful. So now this one is shooting projectiles that are these little like bombs on the floor, and you can kind of see there, if you're standing on the ground when one of them drops, Hat Kid like flops and falls, which is a little bit annoying and loses some time. But I just try to base my movement around it so that I never like get knocked on the floor. I always try to be in the air whenever the projectiles fall down. But now we're on to the last level, Lava Cake. And this is actually, despite being the third one where the flower is the most powerful and shooting the largest projectiles, it's actually the most relieving of this level because since this is the last flower that we have to destroy, we don't need to skip the checkpoint, so we don't have a risk of falling down and losing like a minute. This one is a bit more simple. But yeah, since this is the last one we need to do, when we destroy that flower, the level will be completed. The skipping the checkpoints here is unnecessary. We're just gonna work our way up to the top. And here, now there are a bunch of more flowers making obstacles in my way. I'll take damage if I touch those, so not only do I have to dodge those, I also have to be in the air when the projectiles land, and also they're bigger, if that wasn't enough to make you annoyed. But that's it. That was actually a pretty solid illness. That's probably like a 4:30, which is a pretty alright time. I mean, anything where you didn't choke the level is pretty good. Yeah, now we can just finish up. We cured the illness. And now there are 2 more time rifts left in the level, or in Alpine, that we haven't done yet, and then we'll be done. So now, because we completed every single level and most of the time rifts before re-entering the spaceship, now we have to sit here through this like 25-second cutscene where it shows every single level completing at once and all the new ones that we've unlocked. So this is the longest telescope cutscene. Very long. But now we're through. This rift is just called Twilight Bell, because it's right here on Twilight Bell. That's like the shortest time rift entrance in the game. It's like literally right next to you. And then you just have these big goats that slap you around. You want to try to narrowly avoid them. Also skip those lower platforms by by jumping on this bucket right there and trying not to fall. And then you can just sneak around the goats. Oh, don't slap me! Oh! How did he not slap me? How did he not slap me? Okay. I'm getting super lucky. These goats are being nice to me. Normally when you get close to them, they slap you off the level and you go all the way back. The goats are like the only annoying part of this level. The rest of it's pretty simple. You just use your Dweller hat to make it through that wall and go to the timepiece. Another roulette here. And now the last one, this last time rift is called Curly Tail Trail, because it's located on Curly Tail Trail, which is an island next to Windmill. So that's where we're going to enter. Curly Tail Trail being called that because it is the island where the cats live. Fortunately, the time rift is in a spot where I don't have to deal with the cats to get to, so no risk of getting my hat stolen this time. Up on this house right here. And this level actually has a pretty difficult skip in it. It's kind of similar to Bag Skip, the skip that we did at the beginning of Subcon, where we landed on a tiny little branch and did an STJ off of it to keep momentum and cover a large gap. And do that again here with these little poles. And now I have full momentum with an STJ across that pole, and that lets me clear that entire gap and just make it straight to the end. I can just jump up to the top and do that level super quickly. Now one more roulette. Ooh, this is a rare color. I'm actually going to put that on.
Here we go!
Yeah, now we've collected 25 timepieces, so we could go finish an if we wanted to, but because now finale is unlocked, but we're going to be saving it for the end of the run still. But this is the little mustache girl segment, where she steals all your timepieces and creates this big lava castle, unlocking the final level of the game. But we've got more stuff to go do. So we're going to go down here, a little secret area down here called the lab. Need the Dweller hat to get into. So I break through that wall, and now I'm going to make another relic. Shoot. Train relic with the train tracks. And that little toy figure is going to make the time rift that spawns in Battle the Birds, which is the chapter we're going to be going to next, which is chapter 2. It's 50 minutes in the run, we're finally going to chapter 2. And this chapter in particular is actually pretty similar to any percent for the most part, because there's not too many collectibles that you can grab in this chapter that we don't already grab in any percent. So a lot of this is really similar, so I'll just explain the basic mechanics of the levels. So starting out here, we're going to abuse the stacked speed thing that I talked about earlier in the beginning of the run, where you can ride on moving platforms and get boosted speed off of them, like I just did an STJ off of that trolley. I wanted to be careful there just so I could get that yarn. I didn't want to fall down, because there aren't that many safe checkpoints to grab in this level, so falls can be costly. Dive boost into these sandbags for some extra speed, and then do a void warp here where you spawn to a later checkpoint. One more thing we need to grab in a chest over here, another yarn, and then we can go to the end. Jump on this box that allows us to jump straight to the end of the level and skip like... Oh! What? Where am I? Okay, I guess I can actually try it again. Oh, if my camera will stop turning around. Alright, let's give that another shot. Wow! I have not been in this position before. I didn't even know that any of these guys existed. Please! Please! Okay, we made it. Oh my gosh, I've never been stuck there before. But now we can actually progress to the end of the level. Finally. By jumping under this thing right here. Jumping to the end. Now we just talk to DJ Grooves. And we get our little bird passport. Yeah, when I got stuck down there, I actually had to be sneaky for once. Because it checkpointed me in a place I didn't want to be. And I had to actually maneuver around those guys. Normally you can just jump straight past them. But now we are going into the first of the conductor's levels. This is one of the two birds. The two main story characters of this chapter, the conductor and DJ Groove. They each have their own 2 movie levels that we're going to be doing all of, because this is all timepieces. So this is a little murder movie. And we're just going to be going to the part of the level where the actual murder sequence begins, so that we can begin skipping past everything and breaking the level. First we have to actually, like, discover the murder. Back here we get a phone call, which tells us, hey, someone died. Go back and check it out. Wouldn't you know it, there is a person with a knife in them. That's not good. So now we're in the search sequence where we look for evidence to try to find out who the killer is. But fortunately, we can skip past almost every single part of that. By getting up to the top floor early, you can jump off of this door and hit this button, which unlocks a case that opens the top floor for us. Which normally you would have to get like multiple other keys and discover a bunch of other things before you could progress to. But with that skip you can get up there immediately. Right there, because I did that sequence break, when I normally enter that room, there's supposed to be a 3 or so second cutscene that plays. Whenever the cutscene finishes, obviously Hat Kid's state is set to the start of the room. So whenever that cutscene finishes, because the cutscene didn't play, it just teleports me back to the start. With near perfect movement, I can actually make it into the door before I get teleported back. Which I actually somehow pulled off at my AGDQ run, but you can see how difficult it is. I didn't get it there. Yeah, that is most of the level skipped and made really quick. And now we didn't discover any evidence, so the only potential murderer is the conductor, so sorry, we have to pick him. Oh, and turns out the guy didn't die, by the way. It was all just for the movie. And now we are entering into a DJ Grooves level, picture perfect. DJ Grooves is just more about having fun, so we're just gonna go around and take pictures of people and become popular. So that point counter at the bottom increases every time I pass certain triggers, like talking to penguins with question marks above their heads, or taking pictures with these people like that, and also doing these endorsements. These are little cutscenes where I talk to DJ Grooves and I get an endorsement where he gives me a bunch of extra points. And there's one endorsement that I skipped at the start of the level, where you talk to DJ Grooves and he asks you to save a dog. Whenever I did that endorsement, for whatever reason, the dog spawned onto the statue at the beginning, which we'll see here in a moment. So even though I never started the cutscene that created the dog chase thing, the dog is still there and ready for me to save him. even though I never began the cutscene for it, which kind of showed why the camera warped back to the end there. But that's a little sequence break that you can do to save some time there. Become Max Diva. So next we're going into AliExpress again. This time because there's a time rift in there called AliExpress because it's located on the AliExpress. Featured in Murder on the AliExpress. And so we're going to do the intro to the level the same way. Up until we make it to your time rift, of course. Dive boost past everyone, make sure no one talks to you. You don't have time to be talked to. And then you just jump into the level. This is one of the really heavy cycle-based levels. There's specific movement that you can go for at the start of this level, and you basically have to hit it just right, and you can barely make a cycle. And missing the cycle loses like 7 to 10 seconds, so this level can actually be pretty difficult to do well. These moving buttons, you need to make it to the third button before it goes down. But if you do that like I did, then I've made the first cycle. That's the difficult part out of the way. Now I just have to get onto this rising gear before it leaves. So I just barely made it up onto it in time. And now I'm at the end on the fastest cycle. That's one of the more difficult rifts done well. And then you just climb to the top off of that lamp to skip the buttons there. And that was a pretty nice AliExpress. And next is Train Rush, the next conductor movie level. So for this movie, instead of deciding he wants to kill someone on his train, instead he decides that he wants to blow it up. We're gonna go in on the train real quick. And now he's gonna tell us, hey, by the way, there's a bomb on the train, go. And now there's a little timer. At the bottom right, showing how much time we have. And that's more than enough time for us. This is a super movement heavy level. Not too many gimmicks on it, just a lot of dive boosting and sprint jumping and stuff like that. There's a lot of panels that you have to trigger, but that's about it. This level is really fun to optimize because the whole part of the level is so fast-paced. Gotta hit each and every one of these panels. Barely zigzag in between them to hit them as fast as possible. Hook shot into the final room. This one can be a bit annoying because sometimes you can get shot by cannonballs or blown up by these birthday cake bombs. And they're really annoying. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on here. Like there. Let's just hope it doesn't happen again. That's annoying. There we go. And that was a pretty good train rush. I just dive boost to the end. Make the ice hat, which is the last hat of the run that we're going to be making. There's one more unlockable hat in the game called the time stop hat, but we don't have any uses for it in the run. And also it costs a lot of yarn to make, so it's not really worth. And now for one of the most notorious levels in the entire game, the big parade. So, this level has a long history in speedrunning in this game. There's been a lot of discoveries for it, but generally, the main feedback of this level for speedrunners is that it's very annoying. It's one of the longest levels, most of it is an auto-scroller. It has low gravity, which some people don't like. And on top of that, it has a run-killing trick at the end of it. After 4 minutes of just doing stuff, so this level is something. There's a lot going on here. So, basically, there's a timer at our bottom right, and when that timer completes, DJ Grooves is going to assign us with one of two tasks. The first one is smacking these valves, trigger them. And what I'm doing right now is I jumped off of the ground there, next to one of the valves, and now I'm only jumping on tight ropes. If you remember the stuck warping mechanic that I mentioned in Heating Up Mafia Town earlier, where we get stuck and teleport ourselves to the top, I'm doing that again here. So these valves are not a safe spot, so you can safely stand on them. And now, I'm just gonna wait here for the timer to count down, then I can hit this faucet and softlock myself and warp all the way back to the other one, essentially skipping a lot of backtracking. And we can do that twice in this level, but it's kind of difficult. So here's the first one. I gotta get stuck under this roof. The crowd bounces you up kind of like lava does in Heating Up, so it pretty much works the same way. And then I warp all the way back and just can go immediately to the next one. And that makes that section really fast. And now, before the timer counts down for the next section, which is hitting some buttons on floats to activate them, I'm going to collect some more pawns, because there's a lot of pawns in this level and we need all of them, so I'm going to go through a route that grabs all of them real quick, and then proceed to set up for another stuck warp. Those should be the last of them. Oh no, I'm taking damage. It's okay, as long as I don't take too much damage, I can still do it fine. Let me grab this health pawn real quick, just to be sure. But I want to set my position on this little lamppost right here, because this is actually a safe position. Okay, well, that was not exactly how it's supposed to turn out, but hey, it worked. So now my safe position is set to that little lamppost back there. So now I'm going to hit this button right here, as soon as the timer ends, and then softlock myself once again, and warp back to that little lamppost and hit the next button, which is right below it. So bounce under this thing, and now we're back here, that little post that I stood on. We can immediately go to the last button, right there. So that's the last objective for Parade. Now there's one timer left, and this timer counts down to something different. It counts down to the timepiece spawning. Which, while that timer's going down, I'm going to set up for a little trick here, where I freeze myself in the ice hat. So, these little owls follow me around. Whenever I touch them, they send me in the direction that I touch them while dealing damage to me. So I'm going to walk a little bit forward, and have this owl launch me straight into the timepiece, which you can see in front of me. That means I'm going to die. And then while dead, I'm going to fly into the timepiece and still grab it. Like this. And whoosh, right into it. And now, what this does, respawns me right back in Parade, which is convenient because, look, Time Rift right there. That's what the Death Warp is useful for, is it prevents going back to the spaceship an extra time. And now the moon. Because this is the Parade-themed kind of Time Rift, I'm taking damage here from these owls, once again, because I can do another Death Warp at the very end. Get pressing some buttons by SDJing across this huge gap right here. This moving platform and sending flying through the air. And then, this huge wall I can skip right over by landing on this gate, jumping on top of it. Now I'm going to slide down, not grab the timepiece quite yet, rather have him knock me into it while dead, respawn, and then exit to hub, which skips having to watch the roulette cutscene that normally plays at the end of Time Rift. So now I've completed all of the main time rifts and acts of Battle of the Birds. So now it's time for the award ceremony, where we declare the conductor the winner. This is the hardest level in the run, by the way. Nice, got it. Jokes aside, that level actually does have some importance to it, because each of the birds can win that award. And you always want the conductor to win there. Because if DJ Grooves wins that award instead of the conductor, then spoilers, you fight DJ Grooves as the final boss instead. But right now, because conductor won the award in that level, we have conductors coming up shortly. Which is important, because conductor and DJ Grooves' final boss fights actually work differently. And the conductor boss fight in particular has a huge skip you can do to it, where you can kill him straight from the start. So now I'm going to Deadbird Studio at nighttime, where I have to uncover the secrets of the Battle of the Birds movie competition. I'm going underground in a secret elevator that's going to take me into the secret Deadbird Studio lab. Just a disclaimer, this cutscene has little decals on the edges of the elevator. They're not actually real, they're just decals that show you lying down at the bottom of the level. And because these are there, it lags your game super hard, and I promise you, it will not look like this on a GDQ computer. But when you have a computer like mine, it's one frame every like 3 seconds, so just bear with me for a minute, but it'll be over soon. But like I said, this isn't the actual level we're going down, it's just scrolling decals on each end of the elevator, which is what makes it so laggy. But I promise, this cutscene will run smoothly on a computer that isn't bad like mine. Almost over. And then we can get into the cool out-of-bounds skips. Come on. This is my favorite cutscene to sit through in runs, and you can probably tell why. Because it's so slow. There we go. And the decals are gone, so we're not laggy anymore. Now we can get into the out-of-bounds skipping. So there is a lot of rooms and puzzles to this level that we can skip relatively early on. Dang. By wall climbing up here. Getting out of bounds up here. Continue climbing up. Come on, get up there. And now, this wall is not solid. Fortunately, these little posts here I can use to jump into a loading zone through a wall. Which is right there at the edge of the level. Wall jump up here. You can actually skip those cameras by just running straight through them. They don't detect you fast enough, so you can just run straight through them. And then that skips most of the entire Deadbird Studio level. You can just get on this door and jump to the top. Now we're entering the elevator, which takes us down to the stage where we will fight the conductor, which is probably the most difficult boss in the run to do well. There's an out-of-bounds glitch that we can do here. Basically, he attacks you from on top of a stage, and by stuck warping myself to respawn out of bounds, I can go around and land on the stage and hit him while he's standing still, like up there. So real quick, I just need to get this positioning right, and get launched up into the air. Soft lock, which now warps me out of bounds. I can travel past here, and now I'm on stage, well, making my way over to the stage. And now we're on stage, where we can just fight him and smack him over and over. I'm gonna wait for him to jump up here. Now I can just hit him as many times as I want. Basically how this fight works, I want to do as much damage to him as I can before he goes to a certain phase of the fight where he goes off stage. Because if you do that, you won't be able to hit him anymore. I don't know how he's still in the first phase though. He's taken a lot of damage. Here we go. How is he still in the first phase? I'm very confused. There we go. And I got some health pawns. Now we're on to the second phase. You can just keep throwing potions at him, doing more and more damage until he eventually runs out of health and dies. And then after that, I can just teleport back inbounds. Well, not teleport, but void warp. But before that, I actually have to make him run out of health first. Right there, he does a little car attack that sends you flying forwards. If you're standing up on the stage when he does that, it sends you flying off. So, you actually want to go behind the camera for safety there. Oh, he died. That was early. Okay, so now that that's over, I can just right away fall out of bounds. The music is still playing. Kinda weird. But the timepiece spawned, so like, I don't know, this is kinda weird. But basically I'm gonna fall back out of bounds until I hit the kill plane. And then after I hit the kill plane, I can just jump up and grab the timepiece. Takes a while though. There we go, finally. And now the fight's done. And that is by far the fastest method of doing it. It wasn't a great conductor fight, but I at least got to showcase how it works. Oh, to the wrong level. One moment. Basically, I need to go to the Deadbird Studio Time Rift, which is located in Deadbird Studio, which I accidentally entered the normal version of Deadbird Studio. If I instead re-entered into the night version, which now becomes the award ceremony thing, if I enter through here instead, you remember the little vent cutscene right here? I don't have to watch that anymore. And that's like a 7-second long cutscene, so that's why I re-went into the other one. And also so that I could actually show the correct route. But now that I'm nighttime, I can just immediately jump up to here, go to the Time Rift. Like I said, the Time Rift is accessible in both, but it takes like 7 or 8 seconds longer to get to if you do it in the daytime version of DBS. But this is another cool purple Time Rift. There's some interesting mechanics in this one as well that I'm going to be showing off. There's more cameras, like in Deadbird Studio, that you can jump right through, like this. You can also skip a bunch of stuff by doing a blind SDJ over to the right. And barely landing on that little platform. Afterwards, I'm going to grab this comic piece. No! I barely didn't make it up. There we go. Progress to the next one. Then I jump around these cameras, barely made it. Go up top. Then break this box with the brewer hat. Gives another rift pawn and a little bit of money in it. Oh no! Alright, I fell down. There's a little backup right there you can do. When he loses a couple seconds. Now I can just progress to the end. There's one more room. This one has some cool skips in it. There's a lot of buttons that you can push to activate certain doors. But you can get past everything by doing a well-timed SDJ. Barely landing up on that platform. Jump straight to the end. By wall jumping off there. Now we're through. Now we just hit the Time Rift Orb. And because I grabbed the comic piece, I can just exit to hub right away. Once again. There we go. Now we're going to Gallery. It's a time rift that's unique in that its location is actually inside the spaceship itself, rather than in a chapter. We're gonna unlock it right here. In the gallery, there's also a relic pad, which we use to make the very last relic of the run, the Burger Relic. Unlocks the purple time rift in Mafia Town, which is our final destination for this run. Then we just enter into the time rift because it's right there. This one is sort of cycle-based. The movement on it is pretty difficult. You get a double sprint jump off that platform, you can climb straight to the top and skip having to go around. Then you land on this platform and go around the boxes. And you can just jump straight to the end. Do a short little sequence break here by sprint double jumping under the platform and then grabbing the edge. And that makes that time rift really fast. A lot of cool tricks there. And now we're done with Battle of the Birds, finally. By far the longest chapter in the run. Takes up a lot of time, most of it's endgame. So choking on Battle of the Birds can always be a heartbreaker. But now we're back in Mafia Town, we've got barely any levels left. Now we are going into Mafia of Cooks, which is the final time rift, or final purple time rift of the run, located in Mafia Town. The time rift is located down on the beach. I like to do this little dive booster here where I fall right onto it. And because this is the only purple time rift that's also actually in the any percent route, this one is like really optimized. Because any percent is played a lot more. A really quick comic piece right there. That takes like barely any time to grab. Then you want to fight each of these guys with the brewer hat for their pawns, because they each have one. Cycles on this room can be kind of annoying, so you gotta actually focus on your movement a lot here. Some of the pawns are located behind the rolling meat platforms. Run up to the next room. Little slide off the sand here for some extra speed. Jump to the balloons, and that's the last one. Just break the orb like usual. Need to check that we have 50 pawns. I do not have 50 pawns. Let me go ahead and grab these real quick. Okay, so I need 6 pawns. The next level we need to do CTR is, costs 50 pawns, and I have a little bit less than I need, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some extra. There's some close ones in the spaceship. I just have to backtrack a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's like a little bit of a time loss, but not a big deal in a marathon. As long as I have enough money afterwards to do the actual level, then it's okay. And now this level, as we entered it, it told us, are you sure you want to enter? You're missing a key item. And that's the one hat that we didn't make, which is the time stop hat, which you normally use to make this guy move super slow so you can easily win the race. But with pretty optimized movement, you can actually beat him, even without that hat in the first place. Just dive boost into the cannon here. Takes you all the way to the other side, where you can see he's speeding ahead. But you can catch up to him using a little momentum dive off of that branch there, or off that slide there. And just make it straight to the end. Now we have one more level left to do. This is one of the things you need the ice hat for, is it lets you fly up that slide and access into the mailroom where the final time rift is. I got an extra ledge grab, so I may not make the first cycle. I'll still go for the difficult movement. Oh, I did barely make the first cycle. Oh! No, unless if I bonk my head. This level's really prone to choking. Movement on it is really tight. Gonna grab that one right there. Take a safe pass to the end so I don't fall again. That's not that bad. And now we are finally going into finale. We have 39 of 40 timepieces. We just have to go over here. Takes 25 to unlock. We went a little overkill, got 39. And now we can skip over this gate by jumping on the clock. Unless if I'm bad. There we go. And then you just go straight to the level. And now... Normally, you do finale skip. You're actually required to do finale skip because you don't have the dweller hat, which lets you cross through a barrier that you can't otherwise pass. But we do actually have the dweller hat in this run. So while you don't have to do finale skip because you can do it normally, because you have the hats required to do so, it's still around 20 seconds faster just to do the slides on top of the level. I'm gonna go for the hard strats here, just like I would in any percent. Just so I can show off finale skip as well. So you dive into the little hole in the wall here, which lets you get out of bounds. And then you climb up in between these two walls on the side, make your way all the way to the top where you get to the top arch of the level. Land on there. Oh! Okay. At least I didn't take fall damage. I grabbed onto the wrong spot so I fell down. But at least I didn't bounce in the lava, so it isn't really bad. Okay, there we go. And now we slide up top. Use this little crevice there to get us out of the slide safely, and then we re-enter it so we can go faster. And this speed from the slide at the very edge is what makes the skip so fast. But by sliding on the very edge for the whole time, we do fly in the way of some obstacles. There are two invisible walls that have textures sticking out of the little crevice, or of the little arch. So I have to hold left to slide past those. One right here that I can bonk on. If you hold left, you slide over it, so it doesn't actually knock you off. But if you mess it up, you will fall and lose a lot of time. Another one here, and then there's a hole in the ground that I have to jump over, like that. All you have to do is tap right a little bit, and you gain some height, then you tap left and you go back over to the side. And then that gives you the height necessary to skip past it. And now we're out of the way of the hard parts, so we just have to get back up from the slide, like so. And then just to make your way to the end. Now we have one thing left to do, it's to make it back in bounds. Jump over to the side, and there's a cutscene trigger that peeks out of the wall right here.
Oh, it's you.
Oh my gosh, I almost did what I did at AGDQ. But it's okay, we didn't fall. Yeah, I barely hit that little cutscene trigger there, which actually puts you back in bounds of the fight. So now I can progress through it normally. Wow, 4 hits there. That makes that really fast. Some of her attacks in multiple phases of the fight, she takes too long to start up the next attack before teleporting away. So you can just immediately hit her again. And that's abused in a couple phases throughout this fight. There are, like, quite a few of them, though. There's, like, 4. That was the Throne Room phase. This is the first main Rainbow phase. He has 6 health, which is 3 different attacks you can do, so I just keep watching out for those same patterns. And then you just brewer her and end that phase right there. And this next one, she likes to teleport away from you whenever you try to run towards her. But the game doesn't think that you can normally hit her out of the air. So when you do those brewer hits, you can just get hits for free, and then use the Mafia Ball for the other 2 hits, since that one only has 4 HP in that phase. Next is the Cherry phase, which has 5 hits to it, and it has a bit of RNG involved, because for each attack she can either decide to shield herself or not shield herself. And if she shields herself, then we have to use one of these cherries and blow up the shield, like this, where we can then hit her afterwards. If she keeps doing this, we're gonna lose time. Hopefully for a couple of the attacks she just does normal attacks. Like this. Then we don't have to wait at all. Another one. Oh yeah, not bad. That's a 3 cherry, and 3 out of 5 cherry is about average RNG. So you can't really be mad about that. And now we're entering into the cutscene that takes us to the final phase of the fight. And in this last phase, we're actually invincible to taking any damage. Due to the fact that all of these people would rather sacrifice themselves to give us health pawns so that we can win. They're all helping us become stronger. And Mustache Girl becomes overwhelmed by their support of Hat Kid and hatred for her, and decides to go crazy and use really unfair fast attacks. Like this one. You can get some double hits in on her if you do homing attacks while throwing a brewing potion, because you stay locked onto her as she begins the next attack. That should be the last hit. The time is going to come up as we grab this final timepiece, since we just defeated the boss. Just a couple seconds. And time. 1:28:54. Change my graphic setting back. Which has a decent bit of time loss, but is a really solid marathon time, to be honest. Anything sub 1:30 would be something to aim for. Even just placing not super far off my PB is still satisfying for a marathon. Since trying to explain some of these warps and stuff while trying not to fall down and losing a minute to random stuff, category is really brutal, so to be honest, I probably won't be talking nearly as much as I did in this submission. I'll probably just tell things to other people, get them familiar, and let them do a lot of the talking, since that'll probably improve my play a lot more in this category if it were done on a marathon run. Thank you so much for watching. A lot of work went into this submission, so I've got my fingers crossed for it. But this submission, personally, all timepieces, I think would be so much more entertaining of a run than the any % run at SGDQ 2018 was. To have it back again would actually be amazing, because this category is just any % but with so much more cool stuff to watch. It's a lot more of a chill run too, so I really love playing it, and I would love to show it off to a lot of people, because it teaches so many mechanics to viewers that any % would never get to show. So honestly, this would be a great pick for a marathon. I'm definitely going to be submitting it to a lot of marathons coming up. So I would love to have it in. But thank you for watching. And that's it for the submission. Bye.